Hey, you know what's crazy? I was just thinking about this for the last couple days, right? So, going into the new year, I was thinking of the term imposter syndrome. How many of you guys know what imposter syndrome is? I'm sure you've heard of it. A lot of creators, like myself, will go through this phase of, creating content, producing it, developing it, and then at some point, you'll feel like this feeling about, is this content even good enough? You start to think, how does it match up with the rest of the content that's out there in the social media world? From what I hear, social media is changing this year, and it's changing very rapidly. So to imposter syndrome. So what is that? So I started to think about that. Is it just a thought of failure, right? That your work is not good enough? People may judge you. You don't match up with everybody else that's in the same space that you're trying to get into. I'll tell you right now that I have felt that way multiple times. Not just one time, not just this time. There's always been a lot of times I felt that way. Like, why do we feel like that? Well, because we don't want to fail. First of all, we want to succeed at everything that we do. We want to do our very best. We put our best foot forward, right? One thing I think that could help combat imposter syndrome is, first of all, I think you got to recognize that you're unique in your own way. I know that sounds pretty cliche, but everybody's unique in what they do, right? If it's like photography, if it's videography, if it's something that you create, in an art form, or it doesn't have to be in creation. It could be at work. It could be at school, or just a person in general, right? So one thing is that you got to definitely recognize the feeling and ask yourself, why am I feeling like this? And start to break that down a little bit more. Start to look at, well, what am I doing right now that is causing me to feel like this, right? And then look at what you're doing. Look at the small wins, right? Look at the stuff that you're actually doing right now that makes you happy, that you get fulfillment in, that you have purpose in, right? Because when I started to look into pursuing this content, I started to, my mind went all over the place, right? I started to think, well, I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna produce it this way, because I don't really see content like this, right? But then the self-doubt started to kick in. But yet I started to think, like, wait, like I haven't even produced anything or put out anything right now, and I'm already feeling this way, But I started to look at what I'm good at, right? I look at what I have produced and some of the other content. So I started to look at that stuff, started to think that I wasn't worthy of what I was producing, but yet I started to look at the things that I am doing, right? Like, what am I doing in my sphere of influence right now? Like, what can I do? The thing with me, and I always use myself as an example, is that I do like things to be a certain way, and that's just me, right? But I think that's my downfall, in which that causes me to feel like I'm not worthy of putting out my content, my art. And that's what holds you back sometimes, is that when you could be putting a little too much, when people really, at the end of the day, people don't care. They don't care. They don't care about if you look a certain way. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just gonna scroll, right? Like if it's content that you're putting out, if it's videos, photography, if it's music, if it's anything related in that sort of fashion, at the end of the day, do they really care? And if they did care about your content, you're gonna get a like, you're gonna get a comment, a viewer that comes back, right? The reason why I'm doing this video is because, I want to assure myself, as well as possibly inspire those out there that are watching this. Imposter syndrome is real. I know it's real. It does, it happens to a lot of people. I do want to assure that there's ways to combat that. Well, first, let me tell you at least 3 things that you could do to combat imposter syndrome. Number 1, first, you got to recognize that you're in the state of mind of having that feeling, and understand where that feeling is coming from. You just need to dial that down a little bit and focus on the priority, which is, if you're a content creator, you put it out there. If you're scared of getting feedback or getting judgment, take that judgment and just run with it and improve. I think that's the key thing, is that you take in what other people may say, and you improve on that. And each time you're gonna get better, right? Each time it's almost like you'll be more callous to the feedback, to the negative feedback, really, and it'll just make you a better creator, a better artist, a better person, because you are zoned in to what you're actually trying to achieve, right? Number 2, look at the small wins. Look at the small wins that you have done. If you're a content creator, first of all, and I go back to that because obviously you're watching me on this platform right now. Look at exactly how far you came to this spot of, you're either creating something, you either bought into an idea, and that you have a lot of energy going into it. Maybe you did some research, right? Did a lot of research, and now you're ready to execute. Well, you've came that far. Now all you have to do is just commit. It's just go head in first and stay focused, right, on what you're doing. In my case, I'm doing this channel. I'm going to produce the content that I'm doing right now. I don't care what anybody else says, because I'm doing it. No one else is doing it but me. The effort and energy that you have going into what you're doing, you're going to show people that you could do it. I look at it in the sense of spiritually, like, count your blessing, man. Like, count your blessings. Like, look at exactly where you are in the space you're in. With all that said, now you take all of that in consideration, and you execute and you commit. Number 3 thing that you could do to combat imposter syndrome is know that perfection is unattainable. There's going to be times where whatever you're pursuing, you may not do it 100%, right? But you're going to strive for it, right? And you're going to see what the outcome is. And then if you have another opportunity, then you go ahead and you make tweaks to what you were doing, if you can make some adjustments to anything you're producing and make it better. Improve. That's the key thing, is that you gotta improve over time, and it's not like a light switch, right? You don't just, things could change for yourself the next day or whatnot. You gotta work towards it, right? So what I mean is that perfection is unattainable, and by understanding that, what you're gonna pursue is what you could do at the moment, make some tweaks, make some changes, and continue that improvement process, you know? And over time, you're gonna fulfill that feeling like you've accomplished what you're actually trying to pursue. So with that said, folks, I'll see you guys on the next one. If you guys like this comment, and subscribe. Again, we're going to continue doing this content, and I encourage you guys to do the same if you're just like me. All right, so Life on Planet Garma, we out.